Well, I'm Will Sean, and here we have
Matt Ashley.
And Hamid is not able to join us this evening, so he did record himself. And what we're going to do is start with Hamid and his recording, and then we'll jump to Matt and then Hamid again, and then I'll finish it off.
Okay, so the patent that we were working on is the patent number 5736970, which is about an accelerometer method and apparatus. As you can see in the picture, the apparatus has a transducer that listens to a noise emitted from machinery and then translate that noise into an electrical signal. Then it measures that electrical signal for the frequency level, example, the G-force. And then in the case of the frequency level reaches what was preset critical value or critical level, at that point it triggers this switch box to send an off-on command to the machinery that will turn it off and then turn it back on. So after brainstorming many ideas and applications that we could use this device for, we settled for the speakers industry. And the reason why, because when we looked into the PatSnap software, we couldn't find any major competitors or major market challenges for such technology yet. And the way we're going to do it is the same way Mr. Bozeman has it set up for the special machinery or engines, if you will. And all he's going to do is he's going to listen to the speakers, and whenever the speakers emit an out of the ordinary sound, it will trigger the system to turn off and turn back on. When we can use this technology, I think nowadays is a good time to do it because speakers are getting more popular, more expensive, and more sophisticated, and I think it's a good time to invest in such an industry. And of course, afterward, the technology can be advanced to even better utility, and hopefully we have even more greater use in the future.
All right, so when we look at the speaker industry is, I'd say pretty lucrative. I mean, you look around at this, and even in this room, there's speakers all on the ceiling, there's speakers up there, there's speakers on this computer, there's speakers in your pocket, your cell phone, your headphones, so there are just speakers everywhere. And so there are some speakers that obviously cost a lot more money, and some that are in very hard places to reach. So as you can tell by this picture, there's anything from like concert speakers where there's hundreds of speakers and they're turned up all the way. Our device, you would attach it, and if it got too loud or too much vibration and it hit the point where it was going to blow, the speaker would actually shut off for a second so that it wouldn't blow and it wouldn't hit that threshold where it does end up like some of the speakers in my car where it's buzzing. So you got anything from concert speakers, these are huge, very expensive, generally hard to get to door speakers for your car that are like pretty average size, just a speaker that's basically everyday size. They're still moderately hard to get to, and some people put fancy speakers in their car so they want to protect those. Anything all the way to like an iPhone speaker, it's very extremely small, or the little headphones that everybody wears. A lot of people spend a lot of money on that kind of stuff, so this device would theoretically help you protect that investment. So just like going back to this, speakers are everywhere. I mean, they're in the grocery stores. They're literally in any building for the most part. I can't even think of somewhere I've been that doesn't have some type of speakers, whether it be a siren for an alarm or whatever. So they can be anywhere. All these require different sizes. So if you have an extremely small speaker that was maybe custom made for a very specific place and a very specific use, then you know, if it were to blow, it'd be very hard to replicate, very hard to replace, expensive for just such a little small speaker. Maybe this device would protect it. Our device helps like all types of speakers. So one of my experiences is actually, we had this problem. I worked in the athletic department at Texas State University in San Marcos for 6 months. And they had a practice speaker that for the baseball team that was above the diamond, the baseball diamond, and they only used it during practice. They would play music, you know, while they're hitting and fielding and stuff. And the speaker was 2 years old, and it was suspended above, behind home plate, and the auxiliary cord was for a phone for a player in whatever player wanted to put their phone in the dugout. The speaker was 2 or 3 years old and it had blown, so they stopped using it. And it actually, with the estimates that we are getting, it costs more to go in there, find somebody to go in there, rent the equipment just to take the speaker down than to even replace or fix the speaker. The speaker was like $200 or $300, but it was going to cost us like $1,200 just to get the speaker down. So for our purposes, for this assignment and this patent, that could have possibly prevented it. If they were turning it up too loud, it would just cut out, and they would know at that point that they had to turn it down to protect the speaker, so we wouldn't have this problem where now they can't listen to music, and now the department has to spend, you know, a couple $1,000s to replace one speaker. We have yet to finish, or to find a similar device, just like Hamid said, for what we are classifying as speaker protection or anything kind of in that realm. We didn't really find anything that actually was designed to protect speakers. So our SWOT analysis, our strength is, for this assignment, we decided that teaming up, like since we don't have, none of us are engineers or have any market share in speakers, theoretically we would team up with a big brand. For instance, we chose Yamaha. So we would get with Yamaha and try and have them implement this into their new speakers. Probably start with their high end, just because those are the ones that people are spending a lot of money on and are really wanting to protect, because who wants to go buy the same speaker 3 years later just because you turned it up too loud a couple times. So that would be a strength, just because teaming up with a big brand like that, you jump in pretty easily. It's an innovative product. We haven't seen anything like it. We haven't even seen really the category, or we couldn't find it at least. And it is protecting expensive investments, just like I said earlier. A weakness is partnering up with Yamaha, just because there's so many pros and cons. If it fails, it makes us look bad, because theoretically we don't know if this is actually going to work or not. It makes them look bad, it makes us look bad. And then if it was a huge success, we wouldn't get all the credit that you'd like. Obviously everybody wants all the light. So and then another weakness is just the uncertainty. We're not sure if it will protect it 100% of the time, 50% of the time, 25%. I mean, we just have no idea like how much it would actually protect the speaker. Our opportunity would be basically creating a new category, creating a new way for speakers to be protected, and hopefully creating better, like customer satisfaction. People wouldn't be frustrated with blown speakers or anything like that. We would be first to the market, and if it was a success, others would buy in. Maybe others would come to us if we didn't have an exclusive partnership or something rather. But we would be first, so we would be able to, our R&D would be leaps and bounds over if somebody else tried to come in and create their own. Threats, if the product is a success, again, like people might not come to us, they might just reverse engineer ours and change a little bit and then possibly make a better product. Which comes to the more effective developments, maybe ours works 50% or 75% of the time, somebody else can make it 10 or 15% higher, so that's our one.
As far as the forecasting techniques that we used, and we're going to continue using until we improve the product, will be the scenarios technique and the monitoring technique. Basically, we're just going to play out different scenarios for the products in different settings, and we're just going to monitor what the outcome and how it's going to play out, and we can get feedback as that and improve on the product to make it even better and more operational for the use for the consumers. As far as the financial forecast, we used the SBDC Center with the help of Kim to predict some of the numbers for first year and second year sales. And we thought that maybe first year we'd get around $800,000, second year a little bit more. As far as costs go, the direct material will absorb most of the costs because we're going to be partnering with Yamaha and using their facilities. So we're going to pay in a little bit for the direct labor and direct overhead. And then in total, it's going to be a third of our sales. And of course, we're going to have sales and administrative expenses and no depreciation. Also, we're going to spend some money in research and development. And finally, we're going to pay out our creditors for their bonds, which have a very attractive interest rate because we're going to need that investment from them. And at this point, there is no payment to the owners as far as dividends go. And our tax rate, we predicted, will be around 40%.
All right, so now we're going to talk about the proposal of a partnership. And Hamid was talking a little bit about, the partnership, kind of what to expect from, from a financial perspective. However, we really don't know because the partner is really the one putting up. Well, there's 4 factors of production. Anyone who's taking economics knows that in order to create something, we need 4 things. The first one is, pretty simple. We need land, or in this case, it's going to be a building where we can actually manufacture the product, somewhere that can house our equipment, it can house, us to do our R&D, and then even more importantly, someone that can house our labor. It's not just going to be any type of labor, but this is going to be special labor, somebody who's pretty tech savvy, someone who has worked in machinery. It's probably not, some people will be blue collar, but we definitely hire people who are going to be working in R&D, engineers, and other scientists. So it's going to be a wide array of different people who will actually be working directly in the facility. Now, they're not just going to be working inside the facility, more importantly, they're going to be working with the capital or the machinery. And this would be the third factor of production. Now, machinery can be pretty specialized, pretty expensive, and so there's 3 guys here, myself, Matt, Hamid, and myself. And I don't have an engineering degree, we're not scientists, we're business guys, we work with numbers, and pretty much it's what we're decent at. So in order to produce our product that is directly related to the, that where you need some sort of electrical background, engineering background, we can't do any of that. So, but what we do have is, we are the entrepreneurs in this. We have the idea, the concept. We see that, yes, this could be applied to this industry, and people have a need for it. People could desire this product because it would protect an investment that it could be worth, dozens of, tens of thousands of dollars. So put this all together. Us as the entrepreneurs, need to get labor, land, and machinery in order to create the product. We don't have that, and we would not like to go and find investors, give out equity. We don't want to do that. So let's just partner with somebody who already knows what they're doing. Yamaha has been around for over 100 years, and they know exactly what they're doing. In fact, Yamaha has sales of 55.4 billion yen just in their in their audio video department. So the audio video department is 15.1% of the total sales of the company. So we can of course expand in the other areas, but we just want to focus on the audio video because speakers are of course related to the audio segment of their company. Now if we translate that, what does yen actually translate to dollars? We'll do some math. That's 470 million US dollars. And of course, you know, with their product mix, they're not just offering you know, high-end equipment. They're doing surround sounds. They're doing different types of speakers for your desktop, for other systems, for cars, acoustics for concerts and arenas. So a wide array of different types of speakers. Now, as Matt was talking about earlier, we don't necessarily be focusing on all the products because our item is actually, you know, it was meant to fit on a rocket, so it's pretty big. So we haven't actually scaled it down to size yet, but we'll talk about that in a while. Of course, when you're partnering with somebody, let's say establish a relationship. Anytime you establish a relationship, whether it be with a person or a company, you will have to have a compromise. There's different interests. You know, I myself would have different interests if I had, you know, a friend, a girlfriend, it doesn't matter. So in this scenario, it's going to be a business partnership, two different business interests. So the advantage of the partnership is for us, no startup costs. We don't have to put forth any money, which is probably the biggest barrier to entry for any company, is having the capital, the financial capital, to make it happen, the burn rate. How much money do we have to spend until it can actually be profitable? Extremely difficult to do. We don't have to even worry about that. Yamaha is already making 470 million just in the industry they're in. So the next thing we want to do, excuse me, I'm a little far from a little closer. We can leverage their client base. Once you have a product and we're able to make it, what's going to assure us that somebody's actually going to buy our product? We have to find a person, we have to market it, we have to do research, we have to see is there a need for it. Do they even want to buy our product? How long are they going to buy our product? Are there competitors out there? We don't know. But Yamaha, we don't have to worry about that. Sorry guys. I think I'm being a little bit too animated with this. Okay, see you right here. Okay, so we can leverage their pre-existing client base. Yamaha has been around for hundreds of years. People continuously are repeat customers buying Yamaha products. All we have to do is implement our device into the product that's already being manufactured, and we're going to do something called added value. We're adding value to a product that is already existing, that's already being sold to people who are already buying it. So that's all we're going to do is just leverage that. We don't have to do any more market research on that. And our partners are going to absorb all the costs. Again, we have no startup costs. But we don't have to put, we have to find, we don't have to deploy anybody. We don't have to find scientists. We don't have to buy the machinery. All we're going to do is just receive a check for our distribution for our idea, for our intellectual capital. That's all we're going to do. Sounds great. Sounds savvy. But of course, there's going to be compromise. One of the disadvantages is going to be cost minimization. Since they are absorbing all the costs, for example, if I go out on a date, I'm going to take a girl on a date, okay? I'm the one paying. So is she really kind of price elastic at the moment? No. Why? Because she's not coming out of her pocket. It's coming out of my pocket. I'm hoping she doesn't buy, the steak and some wine and some lobster. I'm hoping it's being a little moderate. And that's what's going on here with our business here. They are there to make a profit. In order to make a profit, you have to minimize the cost. So for us who have an idea, we want to make a great product. We want it to be awesome. So what do we want to do? We want to put more costs into R&D, but that might not be what they want to do because that is a cost that they want to minimize, but we want to maximize. The next thing is going to be, we have to give up some autonomy. When you're in a partnership, I can't say everything because now I have to take into account the interests of my partner. So I'm going to lose some, quote unquote, say-so, some autonomy. They're going to have to really start making the decision, especially if they're doing the following. They're the ones putting up all the capital. We're not putting forth any resources. It's 100% them. It's just our idea, but they're putting up all the resources. So in reality, what they say goes. We just have to really sell it to them really well. Which brings us to, well, let's finish off. So the speaker industry is huge, as Matt was talking about. It's a huge industry, and just in Yamaha itself, what was it? Almost $500 million just in sales in their speaker industry. That doesn't take into account all the other competitors that we even take into account whatsoever. Now, since speakers, as Matt was saying, let's say these speakers right here. So we're doing some research. So just one of these is about maybe $15,000 to $20,000. So this is an investment, and as Matt said, theirs blew up in just 2 years. We want the life expectancy of a speaker. We want it to reach its maximum utility or its maximum lifespan. Let's hope maybe 2 decades, but that doesn't always happen. So that's why our product comes into play. There's a real use for it. Speakers are getting louder, they're getting more expensive, they're getting stronger, which means they could be blowing even, they could be reaching their limits. They can put out more output. But what's measuring that output? Our device can measure that output. More importantly, our device can measure that output, but our device is just an idea. Is there an actual device that's currently being sold out there that's universally any company could use? No. So there's no competition out there that can even prevent us from entering into this market. In conclusion, so I'm not sure you guys know, but Bose is the official sound system sponsor of the NFL. Beats Audio just sold for what, I think about $3 billion this year, and it was just made by this rapper, right? And I think he's the first billionaire, and he did that completely just off selling speaker systems. So this is it's a huge industry. It's always changing. There's a lot of money to be made out there, and there's nobody protecting these investments that cost tens of thousands of dollars. But as we said, we only want to be starting off when we focus on the PA systems, the expensive stuff. Why? It's called big margins. We don't have to sell a whole bunch out of the economy of the scale and just get a small fraction. We can just sell a few and get a large percentage, a large margin. And when we get those large margins, you know what we're going to do with that? We're going to put that directly in R&D. What we're going to do with that, then we can find out how can we make this device that's like, let's say this big, how can we make it this big? And then we can scale that to all the speaker systems that exist out there, to your phone, to your car, to up here at school. But we don't know how to do that until we actually have the financial capital to invest in R&D. We don't have that money. Our partner could have that money, but it's going to be safest to put in the PA system because those are worth tens of thousands of dollars. Who's going to be willing to spend an extra $50 to increase the lifespan of your speaker by 20 years? That's a very small cost, and the added value is tremendous. So we really are very confident this item could definitely work, and I think we'll pretty much just leave it there. Matt was talking about the first mover effect, and we kind of talked about it earlier, but no one else is doing it. So if we can get out there and partner immediately, and someone can start distributing this and making it, we can be the first movers out there. The bad thing is when you're a first mover, substitutes come in, competition comes in. That's why we don't want to do it alone. We want to go with somebody who has a huge market share, prevent other substitutes from coming in. And so that's why we chose Yamaha, and we really believe in our product. And what questions do you guys have for us?
You think it might be better to license your product to Yamaha and then maybe go after Bose to license your product to them?
That's a very interesting question. Bose is big. Yamaha is big. Yes, it has to go with big, but we were kind of more, I was thinking, I picked Yamaha specifically because they're actually based out of Japan. So they're global, of course Bose is as well. But we can also implement this type of technology into their other areas of, within their business model. Bose is strictly speaker systems. Yamaha is not just speaker systems. It could be, they work in machinery, they work in acoustics, they work in musical instruments. How can we further employ this into different markets? I don't know, but I'm sure they would have an idea with the scientists that they have available at their hands.
So if this thing shuts off the speakers in the middle of a concert, could that be a problem?
That could be a problem, but what it would do is that was meant to be a catastrophic failure for massive space rockets, right? And so prevent it from blowing up, just shut it off immediately. What it would do is it could cap it off, just maybe just hover it and keep it there, so that way you can continue to increase the volume. So that's an application that I don't know how to do. We don't know how to do. We didn't discuss. The application itself was just to turn off and on. So that's what we're employing here, is just the off and on part of that application.
And theoretically, it wouldn't be like every single speaker in the whole place be pushing it all the way. Like maybe the highs, maybe the lows, maybe the whatever would just be being pushed to the max. So then at that point, if whoever's running the soundboard, if it were doing on and off type of thing, you could just turn it up or turn it down, like just niche that one down just a tad, just to make sure like you're not going to just blow the whole thing and then you're screwed for the rest of the concert.
But you would be anyway if the speaker blew, wouldn't you?
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
So you'd much rather it shut off and then you just have to turn it down a little bit.
I don't go to concerts.
do you, when you're looking at this, are you looking at the vibration of the actual speaker itself or at the sound the speaker is making? Because if you have music going through that is distorted and in double drop D or something like that, you're gonna have a much thicker vibration on that speaker because of the tone coming out.
That's a very good question, and I don't have an answer to that. I'm not exactly sure which would be the best route as you were talking about. If you were going through the route of looking at the vibrations from the actual speaker itself, we would have to look at the actual material and what the material is capable of doing, which I don't think necessarily. Well, yeah, I guess that's what Yamaha actually probably does do when they do R&D into the speaker itself. So I'm not exactly sure which would be the best. That's a great question.
All right,
Anything else, guys?
thank you.
All right, thank you.